Mr. Chair, we're now live.
Thank you very much. We will call this meeting of the Community Affairs and Planning Committee to order. First question to council, the committee is whether there's any disclosures of pecuniary. The COVID. Due to the COVID-19 emergency declaration, this meeting of the Community Affairs and Planning Committee is being held electronically and live streamed on the town's website. All members of council in attendance are participating by audio and video teleconference, and town staff are available throughout the meeting if council members have any questions on the agenda. For members of the public watching from home, please bear with us if we encounter any technical difficulties throughout the meeting. I'll now call this meeting to order. Do any members of the committee have any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Very good, then. I'll ask for a mover to adopt the minutes.
Move it.
Mayor Collier, and seconded by Councillor Bowers. Any questions, comments, concerns? Then I call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? It passes. So next we have a presentation by staff regarding PDS 2021-37, Telecommunications Facility TF2/19, Land Squared Rogers Communications Incorporated. I'd call on Director Romanowski to get us going.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Eric Simpson will be doing a presentation this evening on TF219, so I will turn it over to him and he'll walk us through a presentation.
Great, Mr. Simpson, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Jeff. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of council, as well as those members of the public who are joining us virtually this evening. My name is Eric Simpson. I'm the planner responsible for processing the submitted application. My presentation will provide a summary of the submitted telecommunication facility application, outline all relevant government policy and protocols as it relates to facilities, provide an evaluation of the proposal, and outline and address comments received regarding the proposal. The approval of the specific setting and the design of a telecommunication facility is under the exclusive jurisdiction of the Government of Canada through Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, ISED. ISED is the governing body responsible for radio and telecommunication carriers and approves the installation of radio and telecommunication infrastructure, including telecommunication towers and antenna facilities. ISED requires telecommunication carriers to consult with land use authorities on the siting of telecommunication facilities. Land use authorities, i.e. the town of Ajax, are encouraged to develop consultation policies and procedures for telecommunication facility installations. Where a municipality has established such, telecommunication carriers are required to follow the municipality's public consultation process. The town has developed a policy for establishing telecommunication tower and antenna facilities. Here I'm referred to as the policy. This policy also provides guidance to telecommunication proponents on the town's preferences for the location and design of telecommunication facilities in order to address potential land use concerns. In accordance with the town's policy, council provides the ISED with their concurrence or non-concurrence for proposed facilities. As indicated on the screen, the town is not the approval authority for telecommunication facilities, and issuance of non-concurrence from council does not necessarily mean that the installation of a proposed facility will not proceed. In these scenarios, ISED will consider the town's position in addition to the federal requirements prior to rendering a decision. The subject lands are located at the northeast corner of Westney Road North and McGill Drive, municipally known as 475 Westney Road North. The subject lands consist of one parcel of land occupied by a multi-unit commercial building known as the Ajax Marketplace Plaza. The subject lands are owned by RioCan REIT. Rogers will be required to enter into a lease agreement with RioCan for the proposed telecommunication facility. The subject lands are surrounded by the following land uses. To the north are residential lands consisting of townhouse dwellings located along Spraggins Lane and Pennyfather Lane. To the east is Miller's Creek and a town-owned multi-use trail system. Such lands are regulated by the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority. And further east are residential lands consisting of single detached dwellings. To the south is McGill Drive. Across McGill Drive is the town-owned McLean Community Center and associated outdoor recreational lands. Southeast of the subject lands are residential lands consisting of single detached dwellings and St. Jude Catholic School. To the west is Westney Road North. Across from Westney Road North are residential lands consisting of single detached dwellings located along Tipton Crescent and Delaney Drive. In August 2019, Land Squared, on behalf of Rogers Communications, submitted telecommunication facility application TF219 to permit the installation of a 30-meter high telecommunication tower and associated equipment compound area on the subject lands. The proposed telecommunication tower will be a shrouded monopole. The associated compound area will include a walk-in radio equipment cabinet and will be approximately 100 square meters in area. The compound area will be fenced, secured, and electronically monitored. The proposed facility will be located east of the existing multi-unit commercial building, adjacent to the building's loading area. The facility will be accessed from the existing walkway and driveway adjacent to the loading area. The proposed access route will be located along the northern limits of the subject lands, starting from the northern Westney Road site access and traveling east and south behind the commercial building. The facility will be located approximately 26 meters from the east property line, which abuts environmentally sensitive town-owned lands containing Miller's Creek. Rogers has agreed that in the event that lighting is required for the proposed tower, then additional information will be provided to the town prior to the installation of such. In accordance with the town's policy, any lighting will need to be limited to the lowest illumination allowable, given that the surrounding land uses are residential. Unless lighting is required by Transport and NAV Canada, no lighting will be provided. In addition, no lighting is proposed for the compound. The proposed tower will be white in color. Rogers has identified the proposed tower location as a strategic location to provide network improvements. The proposed tower installation will address an existing gap in Rogers' network servicing the larger area of which the subject lands are located. The proposed tower installation will improve Rogers' wireless services, specifically signal quality and data speeds within the area. The subject lands are designated neighborhood center in the official plan.
Yes.
Meeting, but we have no members of the public, and I know all members of council have read the presentation thoroughly. Perhaps we could go to questions. I'm happy to move the report and the recommendation, but there's no members of the public here for the presentation.
Just a show of hands, would any members of council like to complete the presentation? If so, we're happy to go through.
If I may, Mr. Clerk, I have a question regarding that. So is
so a point of order, Councillor Dye, Regis Councillor Dice.
Sorry, I have
It's
a
okay.
question, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Clerk. I was just wondering if this is being taped for the public to view later on.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, the video of this meeting will be available on demand.
And just to follow that, we have had some concerns expressed. Is that correct, from members of the public? In the public, through the public open house?
Through the chair, yes, we have received some comments and concerns.
Thank you.
Okay, so factoring that in, then Regis Councillor Dice, that's a good point. We'll just kind of keep going with the presentation then. Apologies, Mayor Collier.
Just trying to move things along.
Mr. Simpson, after you.
Thank you. The official plan provides policies on utilities, including telecommunication facilities. The official plan permits utilities in all land use designations except the environmental protection designation. The official plan encourages towers and antenna systems to be located in a manner such that visual impacts are minimized. The official plan requires proponents of new wireless telecommunication towers and antenna systems to adhere to the town's policy. The town's policy for establishing telecommunication towers and antenna facilities was adopted by Ajax Council on March 25th, 2013. The policy aims to do three things: balance the location and design requirements of telecommunication proponents with the need to minimize the visual impacts of telecommunication facilities, address local land use concerns while respecting federal jurisdiction, and ensure co-location opportunities for telecommunication facilities are considered and, where appropriate, are acted upon. In accordance with the policy, the town's preference for siting new telecommunication facilities is illustrated on the screen. As you can see, the first preference relates to locating new antenna systems on existing buildings, as opposed to creating a whole new tower. The least preferred is locating new telecommunication towers within residential designations or zones or in proximity to a residential use. The first four options are exempt from the public consultation process. The town discourages telecommunication towers on lands designated or zoned residential, mixed use, or environmental protection. A telecommunication tower located on such land should only be considered if locating in accordance with one of the town's preferred locations cannot be accommodated. As the subject lands are designated and zoned for mixed-use purposes, they are considered as a least preferred or discouraged location, and as such are subject to the town's public consultation process. The proposed facility has adhered to the public consultation requirements of the policy. It is important to remember that there are limited opportunities to locate new telecommunication facilities within the preferred locations outlined in the policy, given only a proportion of the lands within the town are designated or zoned for employment purposes, and co-location on existing buildings or on existing towers is not always considered a viable option to address the identified service improvements. Comments and concerns heard at the previous community information meeting, which was held on November 28, 2019, and received via email or phone correspondence relate primarily to the following. Concerns that the proposed tower location is in proximity to residential properties, the need to consider alternative locations for the proposed tower, and concerns regarding the health and safety implications of radio frequency exposure. The proposed telecommunication facility is needed to improve coverage and network quality for wireless services, as the larger area of which the subject lands are located are currently experiencing greater service level demands than can be accommodated with the existing infrastructure. There are existing Rogers telecommunication facility installations, as well as existing non-Rogers telecommunication facility installations located in the greater area. Locating Rogers antennas on these existing installations is not an adequate alternative to the installation of new tower, as the antennas would be located too close to existing antenna sites and as a result would not achieve the network improvements desired for the area. The applicant also confirmed that there are no existing non-tower structures, i.e. buildings, within the subject area with a height sufficient enough to accommodate new antennas and provide an alternative to a new tower installation altogether. Following the community information meeting, staff consulted with the applicant on potential alternative locations on the town-owned lands at the McLean Community Center, as well as the Millers Creek Park, which is just south of 275 Westney Road North. It was concluded that neither of these locations were appropriate alternative locations given their proximity to existing recreational and amenity facilities. It was also confirmed that a tower installation on the town-owned lands south of 275 Westney Road North would not be viable as this location is too close to an existing Rogers facility, which is on the rooftop of the condo located at 2 Westney Road North, so just at the northwest corner of Kingston Road and Westney Road. Possible locations along the east side of Westney Road North in the general area were also considered. However, it was concluded that this area is not appropriate due to the close proximity of Millers Creek, access issues, and screening issues. Staff also consulted with the applicant on the potential of locating the tower on the west side of the subject lands in front of the commercial building within one of the landscape islands in the parking lot. However, this was not practical for the commercial plaza and created compatibility concerns given it would be difficult to sufficiently screen the tower and result with the tower being located closer to existing residential uses. The commercial character of the subject lands provide a more appropriate and viable location for a telecommunication facility. The tower will be a shrouded monopole. A standard monopole with external antennas was originally proposed. However, staff requested that the standard monopole design be revised to a shrouded monopole design to ensure that the antennas are not visible. This was requested in order to ensure a more aesthetically pleasing tower design to help alleviate resident concerns. The proposed shrouded design reduces the tower's potential for multiple co-location with other carriers. However, given the surrounding residential land uses, it was determined that the aesthetics of the tower outweighed the co-location ability of the tower. The proposed telecommunication facility will be sited in a location that will minimize its visual impacts, as it will be set back from the street behind the building, surrounded by existing trees, and the compound area associated with the tower will be fenced. The proposed design looks to minimize visual impacts on surrounding residential properties. The nearest residence is located approximately 70 meters north of the proposed facility. As you will see in one of the next slides, technical analysis prepared by the proponent has confirmed that the proposed distance does not pose any threats from a health and safety perspective. As such, staff are in agreement with the proposed location provides adequate separation from existing residential uses. Photo simulations of the proposed tower are included on the screen for reference. Right here, we have a view looking south from Pennyfather Lane. Right here is a view looking east from Westney Road. And lastly is a view looking north from McGill. The town does not assess telecommunication facilities with respect to any issues that may be associated with health and radio frequency exposure. Health Canada has the responsibility of researching and investigating any possible health effects associated with exposure to radio frequency electromagnetic fields. As a result, Health Canada has developed a series of safety codes that provide radiation protection guidance for radiation emitting devices. Safety Code 6 is one of these, which provides guidelines for safe human exposure to radio frequency. ISED requires that all proponents and operators ensure that their installations comply with Safety Code 6 at all times for the protection and safety of the general public. Rogers has completed a power density analysis for the proposed tower. The maximum power density value is given in a percentage of the allowable Safety Code 6 limits and as a fractional value to indicate how many times below such value, so how many times below the value is below the allowable Safety Code 6 limits. So the analysis indicates that the maximum power density, or worst case scenario, at the closest residence will be 3.2% of the allowable Safety Code 6 limits, or alternatively, 31 times below the allowable Safety Code 6 limits. This exceeds the applicable Safety Code 6 limits by a significant margin. In the evaluation of the proposal, staff consulted with the applicant to consider alternative locations. None of the alternative locations considered proved to be either viable or more desirable locations than the proposed. It was determined that other preferable locations are located either too far away to achieve the network improvements desired and or already have existing telecommunication facility installations. The proposed tower will be a shrouded monopole to ensure a more aesthetically pleasing design and will be located at the rear of the commercial building, surrounded by existing vegetation to provide for appropriate screening. While the proposed location does not represent one of the town's preferred locations, it still meets the objectives of the town's policy as the location, setting, and design of the proposed tower balances the coverage requirements of the applicant while minimizing the visual impact. Staff are satisfied with the siting and design of the proposed facility and recommend council's concerns on the proposed. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Any questions from council? We have Regional Councillor Dyes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Simpson, if you can just clarify for me what the difference is between a standard and a shrouded model.
Through the chair to Regional Councillor Dyes. Yeah, so the standard monopole would mean the antennas are on the outside, so you would see them. When it's shrouded, there's a cover completely on the outside, so you don't see the antennas. The whole intent is to give it a better design. It does result with not being able to locate as many carriers on the pole, but it leads to a better design.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions from council? I have one, Mr. Simpson. Do we know which band or frequency this tower is using?
To the chair, I think that's a better question actually for the applicant.
For the applicant? Okay, I'll save the question for that then. Great. So we have no further questions from council. Then thank you very much, Mr. Simpson. I'll now open this meeting to comments from the public. Mr. Clerk, do we have any members of the public who wish to speak tonight?
Mr. Chair, we had one member of the public registered to speak tonight. However, they're not in attendance. We did receive some additional oral and written submissions from members of the public, which were provided to council before the meeting.
Great. And council had received those via electronic mail. So now I'd like to offer the applicant an opportunity for comments, if they'd so choose.
Good evening.
Hi.
I assume you can hear me.
Yep.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Sean Galbraith. I'm a planner and I work with Land Squared on behalf of Rogers on this proposed installation. The presentation that you were given by Mr. Simpson was extremely thorough and excellent. I don't really have much else to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Sorry, I'll open to council first. Any questions? Then I'll just repeat my question of, do we know which band or frequency range this tower will be broadcasting at?
So initially it will be 3G and LTE. I don't recall the specific bands that Rogers is using for those technologies. In the future, it would be upgraded to 5G. as that program gets rolled out wider. But to start, it would be LTE would be the primary
Right.
tech on it.
Great.
Yeah,
Just,
it would be a significant improvement in this area.
Okay, we're going to hold you to that. Any other questions, comments, or concerns from council? Then great. I believe Mayor Collier had moved the report. I believe we need a seconder. Do we have a seconder for that? We will go Councillor Bauer. And now to council. Any questions, comments, concerns before we call the vote? Seeing none, we'll call to vote then. All in favor of the presentation or as proposed? And all opposed, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And I believe we are at our favorite part of the evening where it's call to adjournment. Do we have any council members wishing to move adjournment? We have Regional Councillor Crawford, followed by Local Councillor Rob Tyler Morin. Any questions, comments, concerns? All in favor? All opposed? Everyone, thank you so much. I think this is